Hello and welcome to our live coverage of today's Ghent Wevelgem, the 74th edition of this historic race held since 1934. Well, this morning the weather conditions were pretty hazy. As we take a look back at the riders who've won this race, we have 7 previous winners of Ghent Wevelgem in today's field. Boonen, of course, the winner last year. Bernard Eisel in 2010, Bosenhagen in 09, Frere won it in 2008, Burghardt was the winner in 2007, the former world champion Hushoff in 2006. Boonen's won it twice. As we take a look here at the UCI World Tour, after the race in E3 on Friday, Guerin still leads ahead of Nibali with Valverde in 3rd and Brad Wiggins in 4th place. That's the makeup of the top 10. Boonen moves into 8th place, Cancellara in 7th. He had a bit of a bad day on Friday. We'll see whether he now recovers after a couple of tumbles on Friday in the E3 in Harelbeke. Big crowd at the start this morning in Dienstag, just outside of Ghent, as we see the movie star riders approach the sign-on. And everyone getting ready for this 235 kilometres, 11 climbs that the riders face today. 2 climbs of Cassel and also 2 climbs of the famed Kemmelberg, which isn't the last climb of the day anymore. We've got the Montberg, which the riders will go over at the very end of the race with 32 kilometres to go. There's Galem Zainov of Katusha as he gets ready. Can this man bring home the victory? The rider from Project 1T4I, and this is of course Marcel Kittel as he gets himself ready for the racing. FD Jeux could have this man in with a chance. Demar, the under-23 world champion. Green Edge from Australia, what a great start to the season they've had. There's the winner of Milan-San Remo last year, Matt Goss, and Jeremy Hunt signing on. Tyler Farrar, a rider who could come through to take the victory. He has said that Ghent Wevelgem is a race that he would like to win. He was 3rd in 2011. And it's a tremendous field that is assembled. The Omega Pharma Quick-Step squad, very, very strong indeed, and having an absolutely tremendous season. Lars Boom having a little bit of a joke there in the Rabobank kit with one of the Accent Jobs riders, that's Stefan van Dijk. Pozzato's riding well, having recovered from that broken collarbone. Hushoff, he's had some fevers and some illness. Can Hushoff now come through to take the victory? BMC have 3 previous winners of Ghent Wevelgem in their midst today. Gilbert, bad day on Friday for him. Just totally ran out of gas as he made his way towards the penultimate stages of the race. Andre Greipel looking focused, ready for today's racing. Can this man do it? Peter Sagan, 25 wins already in his career. Oscar Freire, there he is, the man who just lost out to Boonen on Friday. Bernard Eisel, and there is Bosenhagen with Chris Sutton just in the background. Mark Cavendish, retro look with the cap turned up at the front. The world champion, there he is, had a day to forget last weekend in Milano-San Remo. Cancellara giving the indication of just how cold it was at the start of Ghent Wevelgem this morning. Very, very chilly indeed. The mist had come down overnight, around about 7 degrees centigrade and a cold wind. There's Boonen. He's already on form, isn't he? The race underway, and of course the parcours of the day has 2 real different schedules to it when you look at the overall parcours. You've got rolling roads flat out to the start of the climbs, and then suddenly you hit the climbs and you have 11 of those in the space of 65 kilometres. Well, let's take a look at the route. There we go, as we head out of Ghent, which is the start. We head right up to the coast to Ostend, and then along the coastline as we head back inland. We head into France, over the Castleberg. We go over that twice, and then we loop back into Belgium again to complete the climbs. We've got that loop with the Kemmelberg as climb number 7 and climb number 10 over the Mondberg with 32 kilometers to go, and then the race into the finish. Well, as we look at the breakaway group of riders, 102 kilometers to go. The gap now is 7 minutes and 20 seconds. And this group have pretty much dominated this race so far. As we take a look through them, the breakaway group went away very early. 7 riders went on the attack. 2 riders raced across to them. And those riders, Izagiri of Euskaltel, Isayshev of Katusha, Anders Lund in the blue of Saxo Bank, Neerink of Top Sport Vlaanderen, Barber of Lambert Credit Ufeni, Van Moosen of Accent, Bertolini of Farnese Vini de Hayes, and Fouchard. 101 kilometers to go, 7 minutes and 22 seconds. Well, let's just give you an idea of where we are actually on the course. We are heading towards the first of the major climbs, hill number 1, the Castleberg. And this group has been working very well. Their gap went up to around about the 10-minute mark. As we see number 94 stopping, Isayshev from Katusha, at the side of the road in the red. So the gap went out over 9 minutes. It's starting to come back a little bit, and the teams who have been doing the work on the front of the peloton, predominantly Lotto Belisol, and also the team of Sky as well. So here we are. Here's the first climb. Maximum 10%, the average gradient 4.9%. It's a pretty rough one as well that they work their way up. That's a good study there of the Euskaltel rider, Izagiri, wearing number 64. And on the front is the Cofidis rider Fouchard, wearing number 213. The Saxo Bank rider, of course, there in the middle of the picture in the blue, Anders Lund. Not really had any major wins at all. But of course he did win the under-23 Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Just hearing over Radio Tour that the Canadian champion Svein Tuft of Greenedge has just had a tumble, but he is now back on his bike and he's racing back through the cars to get back in the convoy. Not a good time for Greenedge to lose a strong rider such as Svein Tuft, the Australian team who've got that man who can just ride on the front pretty much all day. A tremendous bike rider, very gentle guy actually, really tall, and he just chats away when he's off the bike. Very, very nice guy indeed, and he's been doing so much work for his squad already this season. Pick him out in the white and red when we see him. Hopefully he'll be safely back on the bike, back into the peloton without too much of a problem. The rider there at the back in the green of Lambert Credit, now sponsored by Ufeni, and they've changed the colour of the kit, gone much brighter green than it was previously. As we look at the rider from Top Sport Vlaanderen, Farnese Vini are having a very, very good start to the Classics campaign. A bit disappointed with their race, however, in the last week. They had 3 riders in the breakaway. I'm just looking to see what happened here with the Katusha rider Isayshev. He just had to have a little bit of a stop. He should get safely back on, and he'll work his way to the breakaway group. Talking about Farnese Vini then, they had 3 riders in the breakaway on Friday, and Oscar Gatto punctured at the wrong time. and the race really changed quite considerably once he had punctured. The Accent Jobs rider, Van Moosen, at the top there of the picture as he works his way up the climb. Anders Lund just having to really work to keep himself in the saddle, rattling over these cobbles now. And the Farnese Vini rider, the Bertolini, followed by the Lamprey rider that you can see here. And number 64 in there is Izagiri. At the back is the this rider we were talking about from Lambert Credit, 31 years of age, Belgian rider, Koen Barber, wearing number 192. There he is as he works his way through that corner. Big crowd out for Ghent Wevelgem. They have been out since very first thing this morning, waiting for the arrival of the riders. And the atmosphere, certainly around the finishing area where I'm situated, is superb so far. As they now go over the top of the climb, and they'll work their way now through this cobbled section, and then they will get themselves round this loop that they have to encounter, and they go back over this climb in just a few kilometers time. So just to add a little bit of more pain into the legs of these riders. Just having a look through this group, and we were given one wrong little bit of information, and that is there is a Lamprey rider, of course, in here, and that is 106, and that's Kritsov, as he works his way through the climb. Here we are. There's a little bit of a crash. One of the we didn't fall out, so that's okay. That's here's the replay. Sveintuft hitting the deck, safely back onto the bike. A little bit more of a wave effect there as the Rabobank rider went into the ditch, and then of course the reaction all the way through the peloton for the riders. Cavendish looking pretty good there at the front. All the Sky team around about him. Just in front of Sky is one of the representatives, of course, of Garmin, and that is Andreas Clear, winner of this race in 2003. But Sky want to ensure that they don't have a repeat of last weekend. Cavendish will have gone away. He'll have looked at all the reasons as to why Milano Sanremo did not go the way that Sky expected. He didn't ride on Friday in E3. He went out with the team, the rest of the squad, and he rode the last 100 kilometers, and he's looking pretty good today. Now I'm wondering whether they are going to ride for Bosenhagen, and whether Cavendish is doing a team job for Sky today. It certainly looks that way, because Bosenhagen is the rider who's not sitting in the wind on the climb. He's being sheltered by the rest of the squad. So it may well be that they've made the decision to try and take Bosenhagen to the finish fresh, and use the fact that everyone else will expect Cavendish to go for the win, and actually they'll look after Edvald Bosenhagen. It looks that way to me right now, although ISIL now shelters Cavendish from the wind. Andreas Clear sitting in the middle of the picture. They've lost David Miller from their Classics campaign, as number 94 Isaishev from Katusha heads back to the front group again, does his shoes up, and he will tuck himself back into the group. Jeremy Hunt on the front now for Team Sky. Tremendous Classics rider, a little bit like Andreas Clear in terms of the way that he looks after the squad on the road. And suddenly Green Edge from Australia come to the front. What a squad they've got here today. Tremendous team. And of course now they will look after the interests of their team leaders. Now let's run through the Green Edge team. One rider racing back. This is number 64, Izagiri, as he goes safely back to the front group now. There we are, through the right-hander, and he'll just work his way onto the back of that car, and then he'll duck round it, and he'll be back in the group. So running through this group, there we are, 9 riders on the attack, and Izagiri. There's actually 2 Izagiris in this race today, riding for Euskaltel, Gorka and John. But going back to the peloton now, onto the cobbles, and it's Green Edge who now have full control of the front of this race. Looking very good, boosted of course by the win of Simon Gerrans, the Australian champion, last week. Well, Green Edge looking very strong. Look at that, there they go. You almost hear them rumbling their way across the cobbles. Stuart O'Grady sitting second wheel. Again, a rider who will do the bit of teamwork. He'll guide the rest of the squad. He'll tell them when to go to the front. He'll tell them when to be out of the wind. And he's just setting a very nice pace indeed. All looking around at each other. Matt Goss is sitting third wheel, keeping him totally out of trouble, keeping Gossy just in the wheels as O'Grady looks for any possible bit of smoother tarmac or a safer way up the cobbles. You can see nice and relaxed with the hands in the middle of the bars, letting the cobbles rumble their way. You can see the biceps shaking. Oh, problem here for number 174, Pim Lighart, the Dutch champion, so he's left at the side of the road at the wrong time. Facon Soleil rider as he waits for the wheel change to happen. Here we go. He's going to have a bit of a chase. Not very happy with everyone either, as he wants to, of course, move, always changing to the right-hand side of the road. Takes the back wheel out, and we'll wait for his team car to change it. There we are, but it took a little bit of time. So the chase is on for him, 94 kilometers to go, and the gap is 6 minutes and 31 seconds, and some spectators in the road there, not realizing there's more riders to come through. Very narrow, this little section. Look at this, there's people all over the place. Well, we don't normally see this. They have covered the roads far too early, and Pim Lighart is having a little bit of a less safe ride than he would normally have through this left-hand bend, down through the corner. Got to be very careful through there. And the red car is going to go ahead of him so that the safety of the rider is paramount, and make sure he gets the crowd out of the way if there is any. 6:20 now. The gap starting to drop under the power of the Green Edge squad from Australia. Led, of course, by Matt White, who was the leader of Discovery Channel, you may remember, in this race back in, I think, 2007. What a job he did last weekend in taking Gerrans to the win in Milano San Remo. They're on the finish line, and Gerrans, what a tremendous job he did. One moment on that descent into the finish when Cancellara tried to go on the attack and left Gerrans to close a gap of maybe 30 metres. It took him a long time, but when he closed it, you realised that Gerrans was in with a shout of maybe taking the victory. So Green Edge today, so we take a look at the breakaway group. Baden Cook, the green jersey winner, of course, in the Tour de France. We're back onto the climb of the leading group now. Jens Kukelair, Svein Tuft, the Canadian champion, Matt Goss, the Milan-San Remo winner, Sebastian Langefeld, the winner of the Het Nieuwsblad, Matt Wilson also in that team, Stuart O'Grady, the winner of Paris-Roubaix, Thomas Varkas wearing number 88. That's a team who like to ride the cobbles. There's no doubt whatsoever about that, is there? So onto the climb again, and being urged on by the fans at the side of the road. Bertolini it is in the Farnese Vini colours. So this breakaway group is Aguirre of Euskaltel, Isaishev of Katusha, we've seen stop and come back, Anas Lund, the winner of the under-23 Liège-Bastogne-Liège, the 27-year-old from Saxo Bank, Neerink of Top Sport Vlaanderen in the white and black, Koen Barber of Landbouw Credit Oefening, the Belgian rider. Tremendous atmosphere on this climb. Van Mersen at the front for Accent Jobs. They stayed in the same hotel as me last night. All looking quite ready. Led, of course, by the director sportif, Lucien Van Imper. What a tremendous palmares that man has got. Bertolini sitting second wheel. Fouchard of Cofidis in the red and white. Kritsov is a man from Lamprey, the rider I had got incorrect previously with De Hayes of Lotto Belisol. He's not in this group. He had been named previously. It's Kritsov of Lamprey wearing number 106 as Stein Neerink goes to the front over the top of the climb. 91 kilometres of racing to go. Just to give you an update as to the average speed today, we are around somewhere between 42 and 44 kilometres an hour, so take the average 43 and you should be pretty close to the average speed today. So they haven't been hanging around so far, and it's a pretty light wind all the way into the finish. It's a slight headwind finish as well. So thanks to all of you for joining me today for the 74th edition of Ghent Wevelgem. Started in Ghent, of course, in East Flanders. We go up to the coast to the sort of area that we see De Panne, 3 days of De Panne and other such races up on the coast. Not far from where we see the cyclocross sometimes, up on the beaches. Then we loop back down through France and come back to West Flanders into Wevelgem. 25 teams took the start, 195 riders, and a whole weekend of activities in both Deinze and in Wevelgem. We have Sportif yesterday. We've had all sorts of racing going on the little circuit in Wevelgem since I got here this morning, all different ages and categories. The women's race is going on as well. That's got a tremendous field. 114 kilometres of racing, 190 riders in the women's field. We might get a glimpse of the finish of that later, but we'll have to wait and see. These 9 riders working well together, but the gap is dropping, and really the riders behind haven't started full-on racing yet. But slowly and surely, as the top teams come to the front and start to put their chase in, then this gap will throttle. And when we hit the Kemmelberg, if you're watching out and you're planning on having a tea or coffee break or something and wondering when you can run away, you can't run away for too long, but the Kemmelberg for the first time is at 53.7 kilometres to go. I envisage us getting there within the next 45 minutes, I guess. Then we go over a couple more climbs, and then the second climb of the Kemmelberg is with 36.8 kilometers to go. On to the second climb of the day for the peloton now. And a few riders will be having a little sore legs at the back, and Spleskevsky of AG2R is the man who's right at the back of the group. And if you are on the back of the string, then you really can't go anywhere. A number of the Accent Job squad in the black and orange all sitting on the back. Kevin Ister is one of them. Former rider from Quickstep, wasn't he, Kevin Ister? All been a crash there as a few riders tumbled onto the grass. Alternatively, if you can't find your way through the field, you go literally into the field and take to the grass, bit of cyclocross, and work your way up. But you've got to be really, really careful. The wooden stumps there on the side of the road, don't want to be hitting those either. Pim Lickhart is trying desperately to get himself to the front, and is looking for knobbly tyres here. Problem for number 74, that was Matthew Ladagnu of FDJ, hand up. Sorry guys, shouldn't have been doing that. Much easier to ride at the front like O'Grady on the right hand side. What a tremendous bike rider that man is. You wonder how much longer he's going to keep going, but every year he just looks stronger and stronger. It's a steep little climb, this one, as you can see, with the effort of O'Grady. And a few more riders going up the climb there on the grass on the right hand side. 166 is Michael Morkoff, and a problem for Kevin Ister now. It looks like he had a chain jam as he went up the climb. You can see there, look how steep it is over the top. Having to really work. And it looks like Green Edge have decided it's all about keeping this together up this climb for now. O'Grady clicks his way through the gears and now starts the acceleration, ready for the descent. Bernie Eisel wants to take control. A couple more riders having problems, and AG2R rider having a little bit of a stop was Romain Le Marchand. Beautiful day for bike racing. O'Grady takes control again. Bottle safely taken. Look at this. They mean business today, don't they? Baden Cook sitting third wheel, and the shoes are even matching the kit now. Very easy to pick out the Green Edge squad. A few people kind of thought that it was an unusual design and maybe it wouldn't work too well, but it's so easy to spot in the peloton. And when they come to the front in numbers like that, it does look pretty menacing, I think. There they are as they go round the corner, down the descent. And as you will notice throughout this area, many of the war graves from the world wars throughout this course, particularly on the Kemmelberg area. Great battles of World War I in particular commemorated around the Kemmelberg area and throughout this whole region that we're going to be racing through today. Bertolini onto the front in the luminous yellow. 3 stage wins in his career in the Tour of Berlin. He's doing the job of taking the pressure off the rest of his team today. Fanesi Vini, made up of Luca Scani, Bertolini in the brake, De Negri, Elia Vivali, Oscar Gatto, Kevin Holzmans, the Belgian, Luca Mazzanti, and Filippo Pozzato. That's the squad of Fanesi Vini for today. Guided from the team car by Serge Passani. And it's Fouchard who goes to the front for Cofidis now to set the pace. Katusha, good that they've got a rider up here from their team leader's point of view. Team leader is Oscar Freire. Freire missing out on Friday by a few centimetres from Tom Boonen in E3 prize. Left his sprint just a little bit too late. There's a bend just before the finish of E3 prize and he just didn't come off the wheel quick enough. So a few people in the press corps today talking about Freire as a possible winner. Other names that have been mentioned as tips for the top. Had a little message from the former sports director of CSC today, and of course he was involved in setting Team Sky up, Scott Sunderland. He gave me a little rundown of what he thought his tips were going to be for the win in today's race. He thinks possible win for Boonen with Bosenhagen and Freire close behind. Green Edge, however, have other ideas. And the reason they're riding like this is they know there are crosswinds. Not too tough, but it has been cold and they want to put a few riders into some difficulty. 85 kilometers to go, 6 minutes and 1 second. And the next climb comes up with 73.8 kilometers to go. And that is the Katzberg. So they really are starting to splinter things a little bit, really lining this race out. And a few riders are going to be grappling for wheels because Green Edge, the Australian squad, are giving some grief to everyone else. Look at this. A few people have been caught out under this acceleration. Desperately trying to find a wheel to follow. Gaps opening all the time, and now it's going to get pretty tense. Well, let's go up and take a little look. Look at that, there is a gap. And there are groups all over the road, and it is O'Grady and his troops who have done this. Another group of 3. Right, let's go up to the front. There we are. And Ghent Wevelgem has suddenly exploded. Another group, and the front group with Green Edge is right up the road there as this group try to come back. Number 92 is Oscar Freire, has been caught out by the split. There he is. He's got a very deep section back wheel in, but Freire is going to have to work his way through. Rolling roads with crosswinds. Gert Steegeman's just in front, and the echelons forming. Look at that tremendous view of Ghent Wevelgem. A couple of riders in the gap, and Green Edge have caught everybody out here. And O'Grady looking so focused on the front, the entire squad. They've looked at this. This is tremendous racing, thrilling action from Green Edge. So it's O'Grady and Langerfeld and Gossi are all at the front there, and they have decided we're going to split this race apart before the next climb of the day. So we've got one echelon forming there at the front, another group of maybe 10 riders desperately trying to get back in. Then this group are all over the place. Freire's in here, he looks calm and composed. 201 is Stephen Kotoven on the wheel of Freire. Just in front of him is Steegemans. Let's look into see who else is in here. Number 225, Oscar Gatto. So Oscar the Cat from Farnese Vini and Green Edge and Sky have completely ripped this apart. Garmin come up now with their riders, maybe to assist, but they bring Farrar safely to the front. So Sky and Green Edge, Cavendish is there, Goss is there, and there's only a slender few seconds, but if the acceleration continues, then this race could split before the really important points in the race. So maybe yesterday and the day before, Sky and Green Edge must have gone out and looked at this area and realised that once you go over Kasselberg, that it's exposed and you can take the race to everyone else. And whilst it might come back together, It's going to give a few riders really sore legs, and it's going to get nervous. Oh, crash at the back. One rider hits the deck. That's how tense this is now. Just taking a look to see who that is, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's Freire. Looking for a back wheel. No, it isn't. It's number 97, and this, of course, is Luca Paolini. He touched a wheel right at the back of the group then, Paolini, the Italian rider. He can't get the chain on. In fact, as you can see, he's wrapped the chain round the rear mech, and he's now stood at the side of the road. He's hit the deck, and he's going to have to wait for a team car that is probably behind Group 3 on the road. Now they go again, and it's Garmin who are going to assist with Andreas Clare on the front. This is bike racing, isn't it? This is what it's all about. Narrow roads onto wide roads. The women's race will be finishing pretty soon in Wevelgem. But there we are. Oh, Paolini took a real smack on the ground, didn't he? He was looking around, a rider came across him, and he hit the deck. So the action at the front. O'Grady goes to the front yet again. Looks urgent, doesn't he? Look how ripped Stuart O'Grady's legs are. And then the long tail on the rest of this group. Cavendish sitting pretty safely with the rest of his Sky teammates. And this gap is starting to grow. 5:20 now. So just remember the state of play in Ghent Wevelgem. 9 riders on the attack. They've been on the attack pretty much all day. Izagiri of Euskaltel, Isai of Katusha, Lunt of Saxo Bank. This group has got some problems. And there's a lot of riders in this chasing group, and they're going nowhere. Neerink of Topsport Vlaanderen, Barber of Landbouw Credit, Van Mersen of Accent, Bertolini of Farnese Vini, Fouchard of Cofidis, Kritsov of Lamprey. They're the 9 riders on the attack. 5 minutes and 17 seconds to a group led by Green Edge and Sky. But it's Green Edge who've done the damage. We're only over 2 climbs and it's already full on action, and you can just see at the front O'Grady and the rest of his troops are relatively calm, whereas behind it is complete carnage. Matt Wilson goes to the front, followed by O'Grady, followed by Varkas and Baden Cook. Langerfeld is there. Not one of them has missed it. Caught a glimpse of Balan as Green Edge take on some lunch. And that's probably what you think. 50, 60 riders in there. Gilbert, is he in there? Rojas is certainly in the group from Movistar. Sitting on the back of the group is number 201, and that's Stephen Katoven. Just glancing my way through. Also in the group is Rasmussen of Garmin. Ferrara's made it. Eisel is safely there. Matt Heyman of Team Sky is up there as well. Tyler Ferrara is being looked after. But it's a Green Edge team time trial on the front of Ghent Wevelgem, and they are putting paid to the efforts of many riders as we head into Eka. Next climb is only a few kilometers away, and if they go racing up that, then this gap will come down between the leading group and this, and the second group on the road, the second main group chasing, is never going to come back. Cavendish being shepherded safely onto the wheel of Matt Goss with Bernard Eisel. what a ride Eisel did on Friday. 3rd place in E3, but Eisel in his own right from Team Sky is of course a former winner of this race in 2010, winning from a small group. As we glance our way back down the road, and this is the chasing group. Dominic Roland, the Canadian rider on the front, who's going to have to do an amazing amount of work if he is to bring this race back together. And judging by the fact he's doing this amount of work, I would say that their young rider Arnaud Demar may well be in this group. Danilo Hondo sitting 3rd wheel from Lamprey is another rider who's missed it. Gilbert, the Belgian champion. I'm just looking to see what group Gilbert is in. And Gilbert's been caught out again. So he is in the 2nd group on the road. Gilbert's been having a few teeth problems. We think back to a couple of years ago, and Cavendish had the same thing. He'd had his teeth done when he was on holiday in South America. He came back and he'd had a terrible infection in having gone out training after having some tooth surgery, and it pretty much wasted the first part of his season. You may well remember that. Gilbert has also been struggling with a lot of tooth pain, and he feels very, very tired, like he's got no energy. And unfortunately for the BMC rider Gilbert, he's been caught out again today. And that's because he's sitting very close to the back of the race. He doesn't have the just doesn't have the feeling in those legs at the moment. And this gap is growing, and Green Edge are doing all the damage. Well, if you're a fan of this squad, you'll be thriving on this right now. Powerful riding on the front. Really compact, isn't it? Everyone right close together, just trying to shelter from the wind and actually stay there. Lotto Belisol represented towards the front, that kit that we've now got very used to. And it looks to me like Marcel Seeberg is the rider who is towards the front. Now this is the leading group. Let's not forget them, and as you can see now, the gap's been given at 4:46 and 5:31. So it is growing, 4:45 and 5:31 now, almost 45 seconds and 46 seconds between the two groups. And 4:43 to this leading group of 9. Hannes Lund, nice and relaxed on the front. Tapping out a good rhythm is Hannes. Has been with CSC and then CSC Saxo Bank. Good to see him on the attack, actually, the 27-year-old. Has also finished 2nd in the European Championships. And he's a very good classics rider, Hannes Lund, but traditionally is given a team job to do. Maybe today he's hoping to get himself in a group, and then when things came back together, or an advance party from the peloton came up, then maybe he's looking to just tuck himself in there and go with the moves. Liquigas are towards the front now, so are Vacon Soleil. Louis Vestra riding today for Vacon Soleil. What a great performance he put in Paris-Nice. Losing out just to the British rider Brad Wiggins. Looks to me like things are starting to happen. And the gap is dropping. The front group doesn't quite have the impetus that it did, and the work being done by Euskaltel, FDJ, Accent Jobs is starting to produce some return. Whoa, Matt Wilson leaning the bike right over there. Oh, a car in the way. That's really unusual that a car would be parked on a corner like that in a race like Ghent Wevelgem. Mark Cavendish to me looks much better today. You can see that fluid pedalling style of the world champion that we normally see. Last weekend in Milan San Remo, he just looked completely blocked, did Cavendish. Today he's just got that, he rides a smaller gear than most, spinning the pedals over, looking much more focused. But I do think potentially he is there to do a job, and that job is to look after Bosenhagen. But you just never know. They will have decided what they're going to do. Onto the Katzberg. And it's Neering who leads, the Belgian rider. And it looks like this race is going to come back together after a furious chase between these two groups. It has taken them pretty much all the way from the second climb of the Kasselberg all the way to this climb, and Gilbert is going to get himself back in there. As things slow towards the next climb, not quite so exposed, the group catches. 4:45 for the 9 leaders. Eisel undoes his helmet, puts it back on again, maybe just letting the head breathe a little. Full shard of Cofidis on the front in the red and white over the top of the next climb. Very important in this weather to keep hydrated. They started in cold conditions, now it's very warm, and there's not an awful lot of shelter on some of these roads. Green Edge, Goss in the centre of the 3 there. O'Grady, Wilson, Goss. Over on the right hand side is Cavendish. Seeberg in the middle for Lotto Belisol. Seeberg, one of the tallest riders in the peloton. Saxo Bank represented over on the right hand side in the blue, just out of the picture. A great study of the Green Edge squad. We go back now to Eisel. Sky don't have too many riders here at the front, so Eisel's keeping Cavendish totally out of trouble. Number 28, sitting on the back of the group, is Van Genechten of Lotto Belisol over the top of the climb. Gilbert is working his way through. We'll tell you when he gets somewhere closer to the front, if indeed he does. See the heat haze, can't you, for these 9 riders? 74 kilometres to go, 4:53. We're still in France. 9 riders on the attack. The little skirmish led by Green Edge is over. The peloton are over the leading group are over the third climb of the day, the Katzberg. We got one more climb in France, Wevelgem. A couple of riders having to put their foot down around that left-hander. We head back into Belgium at around about 66k to go. Things being squeezed a little bit through that left-hander, another problem. This is the point in the race when riders are getting quite tired. Green Edge clearly have a race plan today that they are executing very nicely. Number 72 there at the back is Arnaud Demar, so he is here. This young rider, tremendously talented. And if you're at the back of the group on these races, the road's narrow all the time and you get to have to put your foot down. Sometimes when the riders at the front are racing hard, you just can't go anywhere. And sometimes it's a little bit of inexperience. Arnaud Demar, he's a tremendous bike rider. Under 23 world champion. We've already seen him win races this year in Qatar. We saw him riding well. The last time a French rider won Ghent Wevelgem is a little bit of a while ago. You have to go all the way back to 1997 to Philippe Gaumont, who took the victory. The last Italian winner is back in 2002, and no Australian has ever won Ghent Wevelgem. The last British rider, Barry Hoban, 1974 since a British rider took the victory. So there's a few nations who want to write some things today. Damien Gordin, who was on the attack a few days ago from Eurocar. A little bit of a tumble, you can see. He's got a bandage on his left elbow. Just in front of Van Steen, the top sport Vlaanderen rider. There in the red and white is Fine Tough, so he's worked his way back to the group. We're quite near the little town of Burton now. In fact, we are going through the town of Burton before we hit the climb of Wevelgem, which is the top of that's at 67 kilometres to go. The only rider who is not from Green Edge on the front is Fine Tough, the rider we've been talking about, number 83. Apart from that, Cook, Kukele, Goss, Langerfeld, Wilson, O'Grady and Varkas are all at the front. When Fine Tough gets to the front of the group, if he makes his way there eventually, and probably O'Grady's talking into his radio and asking where he is, then they're just going to add even more firepower, because that man can sit in time trial on the front for another 200 kilometres if he had to. Varkas, Matt Wilson sitting second wheel. This team that they really set up to look at winning one-day classic bike races, and they've won one of the monuments already. Baden Cook, who is wearing number 81 today, the former green jersey of the Tour de France. I was talking to him earlier in the season, I think in Oman, I believe it was, as we hit the climb, the Vermont. It's 1.3 kilometres of pain, and he said he trained really hard in the winter. He's lost some weight as well, Baden Cook. He looks very lean indeed. And with going lean, he's kept the power. On the day that we finished right up on the biggest dam in Oman, he was the rider who surprised everybody. And Baden Cook, who would discount him from getting over all these climbs and being in with a shout with Gossi at the end of today's race? So just to recap for you, the 9 riders in the lead as we take a look at the Accent Jobs rider having a little bit of an energy drink. Izagiri in the orange colours of the Basque Country team of Euskaltel. Isaishev in the red of Katusha, not to be mistaken for the red of Cofidis, red and white of Cofidis, Fouchard. Anders Lund in the blue of Saxo Bank. Neerink is the rider from Top Sport Vlaanderen. Kumbaba is the rider from Lambo Credit Ufini. Van Moysen of Accent. Bertolini from Vini and Kritsov of Lamprey. The 9 leaders with 440 and 70 kilometres now to go to the finish. Thinking about sprinters are in this field, and there's been much speculation as to whether the sprinters can actually get to the finish as a main group, or whether this race will be decided from a smaller group because of the extra distance and also the fact that the Kemmelberg is now climbed twice and you have the Montberg on the run-in. But if you look at the amount of sprinters who are in here, it's incredible. We'll run through them in a minute. There's Matt Wilson in second. You can see how windy it is. It's not an easy day. O'Grady goes up, has a little bit of a chat. A bit of discussion going on. What are we going to do now? O'Grady's just saying, well, keep the rhythm going. But they, of course, don't want to tire themselves too much. Want to hold something for the key points in the race as Rojas moves up. Ian Stannard now moves to the front for Team Sky. Matt Wilson tapping out the rhythm, looks across and sees the arrival of Liquigas for the first time. I can see Tom Boonen right in the centre of the picture from Omega Pharma Quick Step. 101 career wins now. Tremendous start to the season, has been on fire as we head to the town of Bourchep for the peloton, which is the bottom of the climb of Le Vermont. And then we race back into Belgium. This is the 4th climb of the day coming up. Boonen. On Friday, how good did he look? If you managed to see E3 or you've caught up with a little bit of coverage, his acceleration on a couple of the climbs was absolutely inspirational. It was stunning to see. Beautiful sight of the peloton as they race through the fields in this area of France. Just constant little rises that really sting the legs. There's a little caption, tells you 10% is the maximum gradient. Not too bad, not the worst climb of the day, without any shadow of a doubt. All the team cars behind the peloton. They've been pretty busy this morning because it was so cold. Riders had a lot more clothing on. Now things have warmed up. You can see the sweat pouring off these riders. They've had to go back, change clothing, hand in the gilets and the warm tops they were wearing earlier on today. Facon Soleil in the blue, white and yellow colours. Good riders in that team. Four hours of racing covered. Just looking through this front of the race here, Greipel is sitting towards the front with Seberg next to him. He's sitting very close to Tom Boonen all of the time. Hayden Ralston on the back, the New Zealander. Bit under the weather a couple of weeks ago was Hayden Ralston, but today he's made it into the group. Top of hill number 4. Ralston, former teammate of Matt Goss and of Cavendish. When he's on form, very powerful bike rider. As we head back and take a little look at this breakaway group. 4:19 now. You can see the amount of effort on these riders' faces. It's been a tough old day out there. Well over 100 kilometres in the lead. And the rider at the back from Katusha, Isaichev, sat up, had a little bit of a stretch, just clicked his back left and right, just trying to make sure that he stays supple. Constantly bent over like this and putting the effort in, the back can hurt and you get sore shoulders. You want to stay nice and relaxed, as Fouchard says to his team car, can I please have a drink? It's almost like Green Edge today. I've said to Team Sky, anything you can do, we can do better. And they are putting in such a tremendous showing. It's an exciting day for them. But they're winning races all over the place. Albacini has been on great form. He's been taking some victories. Gerrans last weekend. They look like they've managed to get themselves in that winning groove quicker than Team Sky did when they first started out. Onto hill number 5 as the cars go by. This is the Verdijnerberg. And these climbs just do not hold back now, because we go over the top of this, down the other side, and literally hit the Bannerberg straight away before we go through the second of the feeding zones, which is another 2 kilometers further on. And we're not too far from the first climb of the Kemmelberg. And that's what Ghent Wevelgem's all about. You have this steady, you have these different phases, I suppose you could call it. You ride up to the coast, you have the coastal winds to contend with, and relatively just rolling roads, not too bad. and then you work your way back inland. Once you get back inland, then you hit the climbs, and there are 11 and 65 kilometers. So it really does test the body out totally, puts you under some pressure, and produces a great winner. Well, thanks for joining me for our coverage of Ghent Wevelgem as we crest the top of climb number 5. Lizzie Armistead has won the women's race at Ghent Wevelgem. British rider from AA Drinks. And now a problem here, and it is Mark Renshaw who's having to have a wheel change, and his teammates had to do it, so another Aussie in the race, Renshaw of Rabobank. Looked good in Milano San Remo last weekend, Renshaw. Rabobank riding tempo up the Poggio, but just never managed to catch the lead group of Cancellara and Nibali and Gerrans, but Renshaw very, very happy with his performance last week. Johan van Summeren. What I can't work out today is why Robbie Hunter is not wearing the South African Champions jersey, which he normally does, having worn it, of course, last week in Milano San Remo. Here is the next climb. This is 20%, this one. It's a real leg buster. Onto the Bannerberg, hill number 6, and it's a full power climb, as you can see. And the rider who is doing all the damage at the front is Neering, and he's given his breakaway companions a little bit of pain in the legs. Just fans everywhere, aren't they? It's this is the race to come and watch. Flanders next weekend. Constant racing this week. You might as well have had the week off if you're in Belgium. Lovely helicopter shot as we look at the teams who are having control now. Omega Pharma, Quickstep, Astana, Garmin now with Johan van Summeren, the winner of Paris-Roubaix last year. The peloton at 3:53 on the Verdijnerberg, and Garmin have decided that they need to move some troops to the front. 131 on the back there is Lars Boom. What a tremendous cyclocross rider he is. Garmin in the centre, Green Edge on the left-hand side of the screen. Langerfeld just looking after the interests of Matt Goss. Pizzato for the first time appears. Omega Pharma Quickstep's Gert Stegemans spinning the pedals over. Lars Boom, the reason he's there is to make sure Renshaw comes back. Not an easy job, got to sit on the back of the peloton, look around, don't want to get dropped, but the tempo's not too bad. Stegeman's looking strong. Van Summeren says to him, please go to the front through this corner. Lars Boom still waiting for Renshaw. 3:35 now. Some conversations going on between the team of Green Edge. Still wondering where Svein Tuft is. Langerfeld is the rider who is right there in front of Stegemans. And these 9 riders still together, even after the acceleration of the top sport Vlaanderen rider. Through the second feed of the day, the soigneurs all out, ready to hand up the musettes. Stegeman's on the front, on the Bannerberg. He's going to accelerate. Wants to keep things... Oh, we've got a crash there around that corner. Don't know who came down. But a few riders left on the deck. You've got to be near the front here. Keep yourself out of any difficulty, any trouble whatsoever. Stegeman's looking strong as he just rides up here in a pretty big gear. The rider on his wheel is Jeremy Hunt. I'm just looking to see who came down. A few riders left on the deck by the looks of things. And a puncture for Tony Gallopin. Nizzolo gives him his wheel. Matty Wilson looks like he's got some sore legs after the amount of work he's been doing on the front. Jeremy Hunt looking round for the rest of Team Sky, but Cavendish is sitting about 20th wheel, so he puts his radio in to find out where Cavendish is, and some bottles being shared between the Green Edge squad, Langerfeld and O'Grady, swapping bottles around. Pizzato over on the right hand side, the man who likes the Ferraris and the watches, who has said this year that's not what it's all about. It's about putting wins on your palmares, and he's looked good, hasn't he? Considering that he broke his collarbone in the Tour of Qatar, Pizzato is a man who is going through some pain. He was in the break in E3 on Friday, and he looks very, very focused indeed, Pizzato. Just noticed Sagan is safely here. Oops, a couple of riders going left and right as they jump over the road furniture. Tricky little turn. There we are, everyone safely through. How do they do it sometimes? Leaning on each other. So Jeremy Hunt now setting the pace. You can see the wind blowing on the back of the jerseys. And yet again it's starting to split. Every time you get to an exposed part of road, and if you're trying to follow this racing and you want to watch riders who will tell you when things are about to happen, O'Grady and Jeremy Hunt absolutely perfect, and knowing the time that the roads change left and right, when the wind's going to change. They've ridden so many classic bike races. You think of O'Grady, I mean, he's been a professional for so long. Jeremy Hunt, of course, a pro since 1998, turned pro with the Benesto squad of, believe it or not, Miguel Indurain, a former winner of the Tour de France. And just shows you the expertise, the experience they've got. O'Grady, a winner of Paris-Roubaix and so many other races. Jeremy Hunt was a tremendous sprinter in his early career. Won races like the Grand Prix Plouay as well. And he's just guiding everyone through. Andreas Clear as well. If you watch them and you just see what they're saying to the rest of the team, obviously you can't hear it, but if you notice that they go to the front and they start talking, then they know it's time. And having had a bit of a suffer earlier on, Gilbert now goes on the attack. 58 kilometres to go, and the Belgian champion is hoping to bring this peloton into Belgium. 3:26 the advantage for the 9 riders, and Gilbert maybe has thought, do you know what, I'm suffering at the moment in these last few races, so let's just see if I need to just open things up a little bit and just test things out. But he's stretching this race all over the place. Gilbert moved up on the right-hand side. There he goes. The move starts to happen. It's a bit of a win from the left-hand shoulder, slightly to the front. So in Belgium now, and the next towns on the horizon are going to come up are Kemmel, and we hit the Kemmelberg. Get yourselves ready. This is the climb when things get a little bit tasty. Marcus Burghardt arrives in the red and black of BMC. Burghardt, the winner of this race in 2007. You can always pick him out in BMC. He's got the yellow shoes. Jeremy Hunt in a big gear on the front. Ian Stannard. Cavendish looks strong. Eisel chatting to Stannard. They call him Yogi. It's like a big bear is Stannard. Here comes Svein Tuft. Well, he's arrived. The Canadian champion. I was talking to him in Qatar, and he said he wanted bigger maple leaves on his jersey, and he was in discussions with the kit suppliers as to whether he could have bigger Canadian flags on his jersey. Looks like he's got a little bit more red and white on there. And now he goes to the front, time trial style. Of course, a podium finish in the World Time Trial Championships, and it's a race of the super teams. Green Edge and Sky. Lars Boom with Mark Renshaw. He's a rider you'd want to be sheltered from by, isn't he? Tall rider, one of the tallest in the peloton. Renshaw, short rider, being brought safely back now, even under the accelerations. Svein Tuft. Perfect moment for him to arise as we head towards the Kemmelberg. Looking after the rest of his squad. Here comes Matti Breschel in the orange of Rabobank. Hushoff appears as well. It's like an alarm going off, isn't it? Time to get to the front, boys. The Kemmelberg is coming. Kevin Holzman's in the luminous yellow. Another group goes out of the back under the pressure being exerted by the Australian squad. But don't forget the 9 riders in the lead. Here they are. Onto the Kemmelberg. 500 metres on cobbles. Pretty much all of it. Massive crowd. And it's all about power up here. And these riders are first onto it. A wall of sound as they get higher up the climb. It's the Lamprey rider who's starting to make hard work of this. Kritsov. Sitting right forward. The gap drops. Under 3 minutes now. Anders Lund looking very good indeed. There he is in the middle of the picture in the blue of Saxo Bank. A man who doesn't mind climbs like this. See the rocking and rolling of the shoulders of riders behind him. Kritsov slightly out of the back now. Incredible atmosphere on the Kemmelberg. If you ever get the chance, come and be part of this. Listen to the noise. Wait till the peloton arrive. Hannes Lund. Oh, it's tremendous up here. Every single rider being urged on. The photographers sitting on the left-hand side, right on the ground, trying to get a nice shot. I've had to barrier it, such as so many people want to be here. So the top of hill number 7, we go looping round, remember, over a couple of climbs, back over the Bannerberg again, back to the Kemmelberg, and then the final climb of the day, the Mondberg. And as Lund looks around to see where the rest of the riders are, just to get an idea of the damage. Now, remember, the Kemmelberg used to have a very, very dangerous descent, so we now loop our way off the top here, but it's still incredibly steep. Slightly smoother road. You used to go over the top, down the cobbles, but this right-hander is a bit tasty. The camera doesn't really show you how steep this is, but it's incredibly steep. Right, well, now we're on the front of the peloton. Let's see what happens as Sagan goes to the left-hand side of the road for Liquigas. Through the trees, and we go to static cameras. Pizzato, the man on the front in the luminous yellow. Such a great style on a bike. He's making this look easy. And look at the road surface. Cast your eye down. You can see how rough it is. So Pizzato, followed by Heyman, followed by Sagan, followed by Langerfeld. Goss is towards the front. Eisel is there. Stannard. Looking our way through. Greipel hurting a little bit. Cavendish looks pretty confident. He goes through the picture, having a much better day than he did last weekend. Pizzato looks strong, just churning the pedals over. Luminous shoes to match the luminous gloves, the helmet, the jersey, and everything. And Heyman is going with him as the acceleration happens. Matt Goss is looking strong today. Balan goes through the picture. Cancellara's also there. Stannard hauling his large frame over the top. Where is the world champion? There he is. Well, I think Cavendish has got it in the legs today. He sprints his way over the top of the Kemmelberg towards the front. Back through the rest of the group. Gilbert has fallen back a little bit. Svein Tuft, having done the work to the approach of the climb, now dropping back a little bit. Pizzato takes a drink, sets himself up ready for the descent, getting things safe. Chris Sutton, CJ, is sitting about fourth wheel now. Boonen is safely there too. Van Summeren goes through the picture. Cavendish with Eisel. As we just watch them work their way down here through the right-hander at the bottom, and then they'll go out on the loop and back round again. You can hear the brakes squealing through that corner. And no one having any problems. Good that it's not raining today. There we go, sprinting their way through that corner. This gives you an idea of what this descent's like. You don't really get the idea from the static cameras, and as you can see, there's a little bit of dirt on the ground. You go through the right-hander here, it's pretty steep, slightly different camber, through the trees, you're going left and right all the time, and you really do have to have your wits about you. Damien Gaudan is the Eurocar rider, you can see. 2:14 is the advantage, and if you haven't caught up, Lizzie Armistead won the Ghent Wevelgem for women, riding for AA Drinks. And a very fast descent once you come out of the trees. The wind coming from the right-hand shoulder, which again can start to split this race up a little bit. Number 232 from Project 1T4i is Bert de Backer. And BMC have decided that they are going to go to the front and see if they can do some damage. Van Avermaet's there, George Hincapie, the former winner of this race, of course, in 2001. And things are starting to split. Riders Trust trying to work their way back to the group before they turn again. And the gap is probably 3 or 4 seconds to this group. But such is the crosswind along there that that could grow a little bit. Now they're going to turn into a tailwind. And the pace is firmly on at the front. 51 kilometres to go. BMC decide to go for the team time trial. Hincapie rode his 16th Milan-San Remo last weekend. That's some record, isn't it? The former American champion having a chat. A few conversations going on. Popovic of Radio Shack also near the front. Talking about Radio Shack, I found out last night I was staying in the town where Johan Bruneel was born when I was doing my research for today's race. 51 kilometres to go, 2:17, and this front group is under some pressure. And Anders Lund is now showing his teeth, and he's trying to split things up. And immediately, Izagiri's going with him. This is the Schoming Kalstrat. It's 7% at its maximum. Good for a little attack if you can. And the motorbike's desperately trying to get out the way of Anders Lund through that right-hander. And suddenly this front group for the first time is splitting up. And the Fanesi Vini rider Bertolini unable to go with the attack of Anders Lund. Over the top of hill number 8, 2 leaders, John Izagiri, Anders Lund. If I'm not mistaken, there was a point in which Anders Lund and Matt Goss and everyone used to live down in Tuscany and shared flats together. Now Matt Goss has moved to where most of the Aussies tend to live, which is down in Monaco with O'Grady and McGee and everybody down there. Hincapie on the front, Van Summeren sporting the Argyle tape on his knee again today. Just holding that kneecap in place, but Garmin, being Garmin, have got their own Argyle tape rather than just using blue stuff, which is a little bit different. These two are on the move, 49 kilometres to go. Give you a flavour of what's coming up. We've got the Bannerberg again, which is in about 3 kilometres time. The Kemmelberg, we will hit the top of that at 36k to go. Traffic jam. You just get held up on these little rises. One rider has a problem and you all have to stop, and as you notice here, hold on the bank at the side of the road, and then things can be all right. Lars Boom's used to it. Martin Talingi, also from the Rabobank team, is there. over the top of climb number 8 for the peloton, led by the Paris-Roubaix winner Johan van Summeren. Garmin have a good team in here today. Tyler Farrar, Coldo Fernandez, good sprinter. Andreas Clear. Sebastian Rosler, Alex Rasmussen, the New Zealander Jack Bauer, Robbie Hunter, the South African champion, and Van Summeren that we've just mentioned. BMC look really keen now to try and exert some pressure if they can. Marcus Burghardt on the front. Do you remember his win in Ghent Wevelgem? There was him, Roger Hammond, the British rider, and Oscar Freire. And Burghardt and Hammond outwitted Freire totally on the run-in. Burghardt took the victory. A very good day for that squad, the T-Mobile team, when they took that win. Izagiri and Lunt are certainly starting to open up a bit of an advantage. Lunt started this attack, and they've left the 7 other breakaway companions in their wake. Good to see a rider from the Basque Country on the move in Ghent Wevelgem. Slight rider, very good climber Izagiri. And that's a great camera shot. Gives you an idea of just how steep these little climbs are, how much they hurt the legs. Most of us normal riders, if we went out here, we'd haul our way all the way up here. You can see just back in the distance, right down in the valley where they've come from. We'd be down in bottom gear up there and just about making it. Saxo Bank have Nick Gates as their team director today. Great career he had, didn't he? Nick Gates rode for the Lotto team a lot of the time, if my memory serves me correct. .240 now. There's a little bit of a lull in proceedings. Notably because everyone knows that they need to get over this climb, and then it's all about what happens on the run into the Kemmelberg for the second time. It's like the middle of summer here, isn't it? The sun's shining, it's dry, it's hardly rained for ages. And it's just tempo in the peloton now. Everyone realises that the explosions are going to happen. And it won't be long until they do. But if you're at the back of this group, you can't really go anywhere. You just have to sit there and wait. There's Chris Sutton. Chatting to Sky about him yesterday. Struggled a little bit in Terreno Adriatico, but they've rested him since. And his job today is a key support role for Cavendish and Bosenhagen. He's having a little bit of lunch, the Australian rider. Eisel looks around to just check he's all right. Matt Heyman looking very composed. Langefeld as the rider is just behind him. Van Avermaet is up there for BMC. Another problem for Svein Tuft. He's taken to the mud this time. He's having a day he'd rather forget. Every time he gets himself to the front, he ends up in the either crashing or getting left at the side of the road with a problem. Little bit like Cancellara on Friday. He had a terrible day. Soigneurs are out, holding the bottles up, ready for Team Sky, particularly. And as you can see, everyone getting held up again, and Swan Tuft, oh, he's not going to be happy after this. Baden Cook is the other green edge rider who's at the back. 3:08, the gap goes out. Onto the Bannerberg, 2 kilometres, gradient of 10% at its maximum. We've seen Izagiri, the 22-year-old, race up there with Anders Lund. And we'll see what sort of thing starts to happen on here. Looks like BMC are keen to put in a bit of pain. And it's Van Avermaet who is setting the pace. Great classics rider, this man. On his wheel immediately is, I think, Langerfeld. Eisel takes a big deep breath, has a look around. Sutton is with him. Haven't seen Cavendish for a little while. You normally expect to see the World Championship bands right behind Eisel. But Van Avermaet happy to just set the pace on the front. Glancing my way through the group, we head back now to the leaders. 44 kilometres to go. They will hit the Kemmelberg in about 6k. Cameraman keen to show some of the spectators at the side of the road. So this is Ion Izagiri on the front. Izagiri hasn't won any races so far in his career. He turned professional properly with Euskaltel Euskadi. Last season he was a neo-pro. He'd ridden for the Orbea Continental team just before that. Crash now, a few riders have hit the deck. People getting pretty tired. And a couple of riders have really hit the deck now. And one rider in particular has looks like he's hit the wall there. Number 65, Oros of Euskaltel, he's okay. And the rider who is there from Lambo Credit, bit shaken up. It's very fast, this section. Davy Komen doesn't look like he wants to continue at this moment. A couple of other riders of Pava in there from Vacon Soleil. He's got hardly any shorts left on his right hand hip. That looked like a rapid crash, that one. Here we go. This is what happened. Svein Tuft had his head down. A couple of riders hit the deck. And it's a right-hander there. Touch of wheels. Painful place to crash because it's very, very quick indeed. And this race is getting nervous now. It is literally a race that you have to stay near the front. You need to stay out of trouble. 235 kilometres, sun beating down on your back, constant climbs, wide road, narrow road, winds to contend with. It's one of those races for the tough boys. 3:09 now the gap, 42 kilometres to go. Plenty of action though, isn't there? ominously, Greipel is looking pretty good. Good season so far, touching the wheel almost. Safely just rights himself. 3 wins in the Tour Down Under, 2 stage wins in the Tour of Oman, 75 wins in his career so far, Greipel. Was climbing really, really well at the beginning of the season, and he looks keen today. Ooh, jumping up onto the pavement there to get our trouble goes Sagan. Seberg is keeping Greipel out of any trouble. Cavendish is safely at the front, the world champion on the wheel of ISIL. And Sky look like what they're going to try and do is just take Cavendish to the bottom of the climb and get him safely over it, and then they will just try and take control as another group tries to come back. The Kemmelberg is the nervy point. It's where Green Edge have to make sure Goss gets over the top. Cavendish has to get safely over for Sky. And Kritsov now is being mopped up by the front group. Sounds like the second group behind the peloton now is coming back on Radio Tour, just listening into that. But remember, the state of play on the Ghent Wevelgem so far, Anneslund and Ioni Zaguri are the 2 attacking riders. 2:59 their advantage. On the front of the peloton, being led now by Bernie Eisel of Team Sky. Cavendish in second place. Pace is rapid. Long straight line of riders as they come safely back to the race at the perfect time. We hit Kemmel in 1 kilometre, and then we go out of there and on to the Kemmelberg. Cavendish very happy to sit second wheel. Eisel just relaxing with the forearms on the bars. Bosenhagen is up there as well, former winner. Here comes George Hincapie up to the front. Tremendous helicopter shot. Really great action now in Ghent Wevelgem as Rabobank bring their troops up to the front now as well. 39 kilometres to go. Jack Bauer arrives. In the centre of the picture come Rabobank. Benati is brought up by Radio Shack Nissan. But here are your leaders. Anneslund in the blue, Izaguri, the Basque Country Euskaltel team in the orange. 2:57. Now we're going to hit the Kemmelberg with the leaders. The gradient of 17% at its maximum. All on cobbles. We're going to rumble our way to the top. These 2 riders, I think, will probably ride together. Anneslund is certainly looking strong today as he sits just tucked in on Izagiri. Get ready though, because in 2 minutes 50 seconds all hell will break loose on this climb. Now is not the time to go and make coffee or anything. Now is the time to sit here and watch, because the favourites are all massing. Benati and Cavendish, Boone and everyone else, they're all at the front. Matt Goss for Green Edge. The crowd appreciating the amount of work these 2 riders have done. Long time in the lead. It's approaching, trying to think, maybe nearly 200k. Certainly over 180. .248, 38 kilometres to go. Anders Lund looks like he's suffering a little. As he approaches the top of the climb, it's Izagiri who's set the pace all the way up there. And he's now leaving a little bit of a gap. This is the remnants of the leading group, with Fouchard of Cofidis gritting his teeth, just trying to get to the top of the climb. And the other 5 riders behind him. It's been a tough day at work for this breakaway group. Neerink in the middle. So laboured on the Kemmelberg, aren't they? Look at the shoulders going left and right. You have to marvel at the way these guys can go through this amount of pain on these climbs. It's so steep, this section. Julien Fauchard of Cofidis, hauling his way to the top. Behind him, the peloton hit the bottom of the climb now. Here we go. Now the attacks start to happen. An immediate bit of power from Van Avermaet. In the centre, Liquigas represented. Looks like Os to me, who is a rider who, of course, has performed well in this race previously for Liquigas. Finished 5th in 2010. Sagan is there. Bosenhagen goes with a move for Team Sky. Bernati also there for Radio Shack Nissan. 2nd in 2011. 3rd in 2005. So Bernati's no slouch when it comes to this race. Balan going with the moves at the top. Matt Heyman looks around, sees Langerfeld. Matt Goss is climbing well. He's on the wheel of Bosenhagen. Frere goes through. Cavendish looks very, very easy, I would say. Rocas goes through the picture. Greipel suffering a little. Gilbert just a couple of wheels back from him. Tremendous moves now starting to happen. Almost at the top now of the Kemmelberg as Balan makes a move. An immediate reaction from, I think, Os. Frere is there. Bernati sitting down. Matty Goss with Stuart O'Grady right on his wheel. Cavendish right over the front of the bars as he powers his way up there. Chris Sutton is also with him. Looking back through the group. And I think Gilbert, fair way back, but Eisel is with him. O'Grady in the middle of the picture now. Still a lot of riders in with a shout as we head over the top of the Kemmelberg. 36 kilometres to go in Ghent Wevelgem, and it's Os Balan. Through the picture goes Bernati, Langerfeld. Hincapie is safely there. Cavendish tucked right in the group. So Cavendish, if anyone said he couldn't get over the Kemmelberg twice, has made all his critics go quiet now, if in fact there are many. But everyone wants to think the sprinters can't get over these climbs, but they can. Goss and Cavendish are tremendous power climbers. Through the right-hander, and now it's all about catching the group in front. The next climb of the day, the Montberg, 32 kilometres from the finish is the top, and you race all the way back down to Wevelgem. One rider we haven't mentioned is Boonen, the winner of this race in both 2004 and 2011. And generally, when you don't mention someone, there's 2 reasons. One is he isn't there, 2 is he's hiding, and he'll just come bursting out of the pack at the right time. Stephen Katoven right on the back of this group here as we go down this descent. Little escape group at the front here with Balan leading. Rocas on the wheel of Cavendish. Flat out action now. Look at them sprint through that right-hander. Long, long line as riders try to attack and just break the will of everyone behind them. Matti Brescia is the man who's doing the damage for Rabobank. Luca Paolini on the left-hand side for Katusha. Daniel Oss also there. Bernati involved in the mix. Balan is there too. Lots of Italian riders towards the front. This is the final climb of the day, the Monteberg. 7.3%. This is a horrible climb actually at the end of the race. It's a really tough finish before you then start to race back towards Wevelgem. This will be the point in the race where the riders who don't want to leave it to a bunch sprint will try and make the move. Zagiri's got a tremendous climbing style, hasn't he? Just spinning those pedals over. No wins in his career. He's only 60 kilos, this man. Takes a bottle on board, and as Lund is going through a little bit of pain, right in the hurt box now. A group of maybe 30 riders on the move. Another group coming back to them of another 15 to 20. Still many, many riders in with a shout. Cavendish is in that second split. I think this group of Cavendish is going to come back. I'm wondering if Ferrari's in this in here as well for Garmin, so they will want to help. The gap now is only 20 seconds. This is the crucial moment in Ghent Wevelgem. Looking through here, you have Greipel, Cavendish, Ferrari's here as well. What tremendous bike racing on a Sunday in Belgium, Ghent Wevelgem. Who's going to win this edition, the 74th edition of this historic bike race? Yogi hits the front for Sky, churning the pedals over, desperately trying to bring this race back together again. They're going to mop up Carsten Crown, and there's a Project 1T4i rider just ahead. He's going to get caught as well. And this train is certainly moving. 48 seconds is the gap for Lund and Izagiri to the chasing group. There is the world champion. He'll just sit in the wheels and he'll wait. And then if he gets there, then they will decide to ride for him. This is the pursuit that is on as we go past Hollebecker now. The front group who are working but not working hard because none of the big squads want to keep this going, apart from probably Omega Pharma, Quickstep and Katusha. A lot of motorbikes in that gap as well. The gap grows a little, 20 kilometers to go. Slightly stronger headwind finish now. As I look out of the commentary box, you can see the flags fluttering in the wind. So you don't want to leave your sprint or go too early in this finishing sprint if it is a bunch sprint. Look right across this flatlands where the battle lines were drawn in the World Wars. Today there is an incredible fight going on the road between these big teams as Anders Lund continues on the front. An exceptional ride by these two guys today. Nearly 200 kilometers. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's 200 kilometers on the attack today. In fact, maybe more than that now, because they went on the move right at the start of the race. And thanks to all of you for joining me for today's coverage. There it is, That's the group of the world champion going down to the next turn. Suddenly this race is all closing. It's all squeezing back together. It's covered by 1 minute and 4 seconds, the entire race in Ghent Wevelgem. Izagirre on the front, being chased now by Luca Paolini of Katusha. Omega Pharma Quickstep with their troops, with Boonen. Boonen wants this one desperately. If he took it, it'd be a hat-trick of victories in Ghent Wevelgem and back-to-back wins. He took 2011's win on this long straight run into Wevelgem. The finishing straight, you can see the finish line for so long, and I think it's got one of the highest gantries across the road of any race in the world. To make it even further, you can see the finish line. Cancellara looking after Bernati. Wind coming from the left-hand shoulder as they go over to just try and shelter each other. Now it goes to a bit of a headwind. Boonen says keep it going, we mustn't let them come back. Boonen's now going to have a chat to Frere. He goes back through the group and he's just seeing who's there. He's going to have a conversation. He wants this one to stay away. He does not want Cavendish's group to come back. He's calling for some reinforcements up at the front. Green Edge, I'm just looking through to see where Goss is. Green Edge are working, so Goss must be safely here. Sagan is certainly in this group. 28 seconds. The gap has grown a little bit again. 18 kilometers to go. The front of the race is 22 seconds away. Paolini working so hard for Frere. It's an impressive ride from him today. Langefeld goes to the front. They're all working hard. So in the chasing group, Boonen saying, go on, just keep working. Actually, Boonen said, calm down a little. He's asking Frere and his team to work. So Boonen changes tactics. That could play into the hands of the second group on the road. The wind comes from the left-hand shoulder again as Langefeld puts in the pace. Gert Steegmans goes through. Followed immediately by, I think, Lars Boom. Followed there by another Radio Shack Nissan rider. 17 seconds. The gap's growing to the next group. It's now 31 seconds. The chances of Farrar and Cavendish are going out to the window. We haven't seen a shot of that group for a little while, I don't think. There are the two leaders. That's the gap between them and the next group on the road. 17 kilometers to go. We're now down near Zandvoorde. Izagirre shakes his head. He knows that the time in the lead is over. The question is about the counter-attack. The gap grows again, 33 seconds. I haven't seen the chasing group come round that corner yet. Paolini goes back to the front. Chiolek goes through. And you can just see how rough these roads are as Izagirre goes through the left-hand corner. Anna's Lunt on his wheel. Well, they're not going to stay away. They are going to be caught 17 kilometres from the finish. Congratulations to those two riders. That's an awful long time in the lead in Ghent Wevelgem. Remember this race, 235k. They are caught, the shake of hands, with 16 kilometres to go. And Anna's Lunt and Izagirre give up. Set yourself down now, who's going to win this race, because there's an elite group of riders at the front and the group that is chasing is not closing up. 44 seconds. It's a long gap now. It's a big ask to come back. I don't think it's possible unless these teams call their domestiques off the front, which is unlikely to happen. Langerfeld goes through. Matt Goss is in here. Sky are going with Bosenhagen. Radio Shack with Benati. Sagan is in here. Rockass is safely here. 57 is Van Avermaet. Boonen will be very, very happy with this. Pizzato also there. It's interesting how this split happened, because at one moment Cavendish was there, so was Farrar, and then suddenly that was it. They were gone. Right, here we go back with the camera. Is there a chase fully on, or are they just riding? Well, they're certainly riding hard. Stannard has done a massive turn, and Heyman now doing the work. Holzman's on his wheel. Hincapie is there, but he won't chase. Neither will Holzman's. No other team in here apart from Garmin will want to bring this back. And if Heyman does close the gap, which is unlikely because at the moment there's 3 or 4 riders working. Hushoff is in this group as well. 39 seconds. He's closed 5 seconds now on his own. Stannard comes to the front again. 15 kilometres. It's still possible for this group to come back. Kevin Van Melsen, number 207. Good ride from him today. Now the legs give up. He was on the original breakaway. Chialet goes through. Paolini, Langerfeld. 3 riders working at the front of this group. Maybe 4. And only a couple of riders working at the front of the second group on the road. It's all about numbers. If 4 riders are in the lead here at the front of this group working and only 2 in the chase group, it's not really going to close up. 15 kilometres to go. 46 seconds is the deficit for the group of Cavendish and Farrar. Back on the wide road as we wait for that group to come round the corner behind. The motorbikes are there. The gap is now 50 seconds. Once they've got them right in front of them on this long straight road, Dries Devenens peels off, doesn't have any legs left. Suffering at the back. Oh, problem here. Cancellara, I think. Just have a look as to who that is from the helicopter. Tony Gallopin. Are we sure? It looks like Benati to me. Looks more like Benati, which means Cancellara now won't help to work at the front because they'll be relying on the work being done for Benati. And now Paolini senses that there's a chance of getting rid of another sprinter. Gallopin is the rider who waited and gave Benati a wheel. That's why they put the Gallopin caption up. So Benati, the Italian rider, the sprinter that Radio Shack were looking for, has now punctured at the wrong time. Cancellara will call off the work being done, if there's any, and they're now all just following each other. You can see going left and right, trying to stay out of the wind. Dries Devenens suffering in the gap. 101 to the chasers It doesn't look like this is going to come back. In another 2 kilometres, it will be pretty nigh on impossible for it to come back. Who do you think's going to take this one? Goss is here for Green Edge. They took Milano San Remo last weekend. Can they now take Ghent Wevelgem? Bosenhagen looking good, sitting in the group. Or is this allowed? That is Bernardi right on the wheel of the team car. So close to the end of the race. And the Omega Pharma Quick Step team car, well, he wasn't too happy with it, was he? He says, right, I don't think we want you to be sitting on that wheel. Not allowed. And Bernardi now has to fight his own way back. 10 kilometres to go. 1:08. The winner will come from this group as Christian Knies sets things up from Bosenhagen. Frere ducking and diving in and out of the wheels. Sagan is there. Pizzato also in the group for Nesi Vini. Listen to the crowd cheering these riders on. Just looking to see who's here from Rabobank, and I wouldn't be surprised if Renshaw has made this front group. About 30 riders in here with 9 kilometres to go. The next town on the horizon after this is Mennen, and then it's Wevelgem. Let's just take a look. There is Cavendish, who's decided, right, I've had enough, I'm going to go across on my own. The world champion, defiant now, and he said, right, no one's going to help me, so I'm going to try and get across and try and catch the front group. The world champion gritting his teeth. He's totally fed up with what's been going on in the group behind him. He's had to use his teammates up. And he is on very, very good form. He's the leanest I've seen him, except at the end of the Tour de France. He so wanted to win this race. Said before the start, it's got such an incredible history, and it's one you want to win with the rainbow bands on if you can. I think he's just a bit fed up today that someone left a gap, the split happened, now he's saying, come on, do some work. And now they're quite happy to just roll through. Bernardi is getting there, slowly but surely. 8 kilometres to go. 1 minute and 14 seconds is the advantage. Bernardi surfing his way past the cars. And he will be back. A lot of traffic behind this this front group. There he goes, Bernardi. Well, he's going to have to sit in now and recover in time for the sprint. Somehow he got there. $1:19 with 8 kilometres to go. Now it hits 1:20, so you can satisfy yourself that the winner for sure will come from this group. Thanks for joining me for today's coverage of the 74th edition of Ghent Wevelgem. 11 climbs have put paid to the efforts of some of the sprinters. The rest of them have managed to find their way into this front group. Boonen has hardly been mentioned all day. He won E3 on Friday. Who would discount his chance of taking a back-to-back victory in Ghent Wevelgem? and 2 wins in 3 days. Cancellara has a look to see where his teammate is. Boasson-Hagen, a former winner of this race. First in 2009 was Boasson-Hagen. So many riders with big palmares are the riders who have won Ghent Wevelgem. Just looking through to see who is here. Rokas is the sprinter from Movistar. It is one of those races, the finish is such a long straight road into a headwind that you could pick any of these sprinters. It's who gets it right on the day. Goss has had a very good armchair ride so far. Oscar Freire in the group. The last time he won this race, 2008. We should just take a moment to remember the rider who was in 3rd place that day, the late Wouter Weiland, the great friend of Tyler Farrar. Six kilometres to go, 1 minute 30 seconds. Now into Mennen. The next town after this is the finish. Omega Pharma Quick-Step decide now it's time to take full control and take this all the way to the line. Johan van Summeren is in here. There's a few riders who will now have to think about somewhere on this road and a counter-attack of the against Omega Pharma Quick-Step, because there's quite a few teams in here who don't have a sprinter. Five kilometres to go. Christian Knies now goes on the move for Team Sky. The tall German rider decides to put the rest of the squads under some pressure. Look at this. A big move from him. It's not often that Christian Knies can get the chance to ride like this, but now he puts in the pace. 1:34 back to the next group. Boasson-Hagen is his teammate in there. Christian Knies goes right through the corner, now through to the left-hand turn, swings across. He just wanted to disrupt the control being taken by Omega Pharma Quick-Step. Now Green Edge go to the front. Matt Goss is in here. Sagan is being looked after by one of his teammates. Cielek now doesn't have the legs. He drops out the back with Neerink. Neerink, of course, was one of the original breakaway riders today. Four kilometres to the finish of Ghent Wevelgem. Daniel Oss is there looking after Peter Sagan. Rokas, Cancellara. Boasson-Hagen quite happy to just sit in the wheels. Freire, who was beaten narrowly by Boonen on Friday, and he won't want that to happen again. He'll try and get this sprint right in the finishing straight. The flags of Flanders are flying here. 4 kilometres to go. Langefeld looks around for some assistance. Paolini gives him it. Balan is still there. No last minute attack so far. Euskaltel have one rider in here as well, I think is Izagiri. I'm just looking through to see if Renshaw made this move. I'm not sure he did. 3 kilometres to the finish. Pizzato fancies the win. Freire does his shoes up. Sagan sitting 2 wheels from that of Frere. Matt Goss moves up. Matti Breschel is the rider from Rabobank who is in this group. Also in there is 136, and that is Martin Vinans. 1 minute 50 seconds, so the next group will just roll in. Goss has won Milan-San Remo. Boonen has won this race twice. Bosenhagen's won this race. Frere has won. Sagan has taken 25 victories already in his career and has been on form already this season. Pozzato has promised much in the last few weeks with some top 6 places. He will think he can take this. Bernardi is now back in the group, remember, from a Radio Shack. 2nd, 3rd already on his palmares. He will want the number 1. He'll want that victory. Bernardi's had to fight back from a puncture all the way back to this group. Goss is moving his way up. Langefeld just tells everyone there's a little bit of road furniture to get round. 2 kilometres to go, well, inside 2 kilometres in Ghent Wevelgem. And it's pretty cagey now. No one prepared to take the initiative. The pace is not flat out. It is a headwind finish. Frere is surfing his way onto the right wheel. The man in the red and white. Here comes the Spanish champion on the left-hand side, Rocas. Paolini glances around to see where Frere is. Langefeld's done a tremendous amount of work today. Here we go. The red kite across the road. 1 kilometre to go in Ghent Wevelgem, and Green Edge have the lead. Now we have the attack on the right-hand side as Langefeld decides he wants to close this gap. A last-minute move from a rider from Cofidis. And Omega Pharma Quick-Step are going to close this. Frere out of the saddle. He knows. He desperately wants to take this victory. Now the reaction comes from BMC. And Pozzato is being surfed through. Frere goes with the attack. Is Frere going to take the victory? Matt Goss is caged in with 500 metres to go. The counter-attack starts to happen as they go to the left-hand side. And now Frere surfs his way onto the wheel. Who's going to take this victory? Slight to the left-hand side of the road. Rocas almost hits the barriers. Pozzato goes on the right-hand side of the screen. He doesn't have the legs. Frere dives to the left-hand side of the screen now. Frere going for the victory. Boonen goes in the middle. Big crash in the middle from Rocas. Sagan goes. Frere on the left. Boonen in the middle with Sagan. Who's going to take it? Boonen takes it. Boonen takes the victory for Omega Pharma Quick-Step. What a tremendous win from Boonen. That was a stunning sprint, going very, very late, but Boonen takes Ghent Wevelgem. He took E3, he takes Ghent Wevelgem, and it's a hat-trick of victories for the former world champion and Omega Pharma Quick-Step. What a start to their season. He left it so late. It was a headwind finish, but Boonen is the victor again. Rocas left on the ground, touched the wheels in the sprint. Here we go. It's a little bit messy, isn't it? No lead-out train to speak of. As Fanesi Vini tried to hold us. Rocas, he's leaning all over the place. He almost hit the barriers on the early part of the sprint. As they go through, Bosenhagen, Rocas goes through, then he gets the wheels taken away from him. Look at that. And it is Boonen who's going with Frere and Sagan. Boonen gets it. I think Sagan was second. Frere up there as well. Bernardi's trying to find his way through the gap. In there for Rabobank as well was, I think, Matti Breschel. Bosenhagen is pushing to try and get himself through the gap, but he wasn't able to. Goss sat up because so many riders hit the deck, but Burnham was flat out into the headwind. Just taking the victory from Sagan. 300 metres to go as they swoop to the left-hand side. He got squeezed right in there. Rocas just trying to get himself off the barriers. Look how messy this is. How do you find your way through here? Then they dive to the right-hand side of the road. The big move starts to happen again on the left. Rocas gets completely taken out. Look at that. Saxo Bank rider hits the deck as well. All over the place. Number 57 was Van Avermaet. He ends up on the deck too. But at that speed, Tosato is the other rider from Saxo Bank who was left on the deck. That is going to hurt. That's better. Here's the result. Boonen wins in 4 hours, 51 minutes, 16 seconds. Sagan second. Breschel in third place. Frère takes fourth. Bosenhagen in fifth. Bernati in sixth. And there's the makeup of the rest of the group. He wins it by almost a bike length. Nice to see Matti Breschel back on form. Rider had so many problems last year, and there's a nice aerial shot. Sagan and Boonen clear, Breschel in third place, Bosenhagen, Frère and Bernati all across the road. And let's take a look at the UCI World Tour. Boonen moves up from 8th place into 4th. Guerin still leads for Australia, for Green Edge. Nibali in 2nd, Valverde in 3rd. Frère now in 5th. And there's the rest of the top 10 for you. Tom Boonen takes victory in Ghent Wevelgem, a hat-trick of victories. He won in 2004. He took the victory last year, back-to-back wins in this race.
En uiteraard komt er een prachtige overwinningstrofee. En die zal uitgereikt worden door de heer burgemeester, door de heer Seijnhaven. Aan u de eer, meneer Seijnhaven, om deze trofee te overhandigen aan de winnaar. Met uw applaus voor Tom Boonen, dames en heren.
Boonen takes the trophy and a massive reception from the crowd. Confirmation then, the top 3. Matti Breschel, Peter Sagan and Tom Boonen.
En de kurken gaan knallen, dames en heren. Zoekdekking, zou ik zo zeggen.
Time for celebration for the former world champion.
Vliegen in het rond, dames en heren. Het podium.
A race of constant action today.
Matti Breschel, Peter Sagan, Tom Boonen. Met een laatste daverend applaus, dames en heren.
Thank you to all of you for joining me today. I've thoroughly enjoyed bringing you Ghent Wevelgem. It's been a tremendous race.